Hey guys, how all of you beautiful people are doing? And yes, this is a new series, Accidental Gamer Hero. I accidentally saved the world and was granted 3 wishes when I died. Easy. First wish to reincarnate in the Naruto universe, and second is to reincarnate with the gamer ability. Third wish, I'll save it for later. /OC. So let's start without any delay. You have died. Game over. Calculating score. Jeremy opened his eyes, flickering all around him before landing on the floating blue screen in front of him. Ha! Game over. What game? Where am I? What score? He looked down on his body, only to see that he was as naked as the day he was born. But more importantly, he was not standing on the floor. Actually, he was not standing on anything at all. Jeremy realized that he was floating in the middle of an endless sea of green. The color reminded him of the garden in front of his childhood home, a humble 28-room mansion, one of many owned by his family. He belonged to the world-renowned Rothschild family, one of the wealthiest families in the world, and his own net worth was already in the billions the day he was born. Right, this is a dream, of course. I remember watching that documentary they had made about me on Netflix. Some inaccuracies here and there, but I suppose it would not be possible for them to get the full unadulterated truth after all. I must have fallen asleep halfway through it. Watching a documentary about yourself might be the most boring thing to do in the world after all. Jeremy turned his attention back onto the screen, which had a curious white loading wheel on it. Boring movie, boring dream, I suppose. This is what they would call lucid dreaming, isn't it? When you realize that you are in a dream and thus have control over it. He looked down at his willy hanging free, musing to himself, well, some clothes would be nice. Underwear at the very least. Jeremy was woken from his thoughts by an audible ding sound that seemed to reverberate throughout the entire void, and found that the blue screen in front of him now contained more text than before. Calculation complete. Alignment, lawful neutral. Overall karmic impact, unparalleled positive. Calculation complete. Hey, are they calculating my life score? Unparalleled positive sounds exaggerated though. Jeremy continued reading the text. Score breakdown. Individuals helped, indirectly 8.694 billion. Congratulations. You have helped the greatest number of people in the history of humanity. Granted 100 wishes. Individuals helped, directly 138,711. Lives saved, directly 0. Lives saved, indirectly 3.424 million. Legacy, hero, mythic. Congratulations. You have achieved a mythical heroic legacy. You have cemented your place in the history books as a legendary hero. Granted 100 wishes. Subtotal score, SSS plus and plus, leaderboard rank, 1. Congratulations. You have achieved the highest score in the history of humanity. Granted 100 wishes. Altruism multiplier, 0.01x. Your score and rewards have been multiplied by 0.01x. Final score, S+. Congratulations. You have achieved a final score of S+. You were a great person when you were alive. Tallying wishes. You have earned 3 wishes. Please state your wish. 8 billion. When the hell did I help 8 billion people? Jeremy shouted in shock. Wait, indirectly, is this thing saying I helped over 8 billion people indirectly? Right, it did say I helped over 100,000 people directly, but what's the difference? And more importantly, how did this thing get 8 billion from? Jeremy frowned, deep in thought. 8 billion, that is as many people as the entire world's population put together. He thought back to his past actions. I got it. I was the one who pushed for and funded the research that invented the terraforming thingamajig. If I remember correctly, it was called the Eden Project. It was a tiny think tank that had approached him, 8 years ago. Their head researcher claimed to have an idea that could potentially solve the rapidly worsening climate change, a solution that could save the world, but needed some funding to begin the research process. The science behind their theories at the time was almost nonsensical, bordering on science fiction, thus Jeremy had been dubious, not to mention slightly inebriated at the same time. But he had to meet his annual charitable donations quota for tax deductions, and so he wrote a check for $3 million right then and there. The poor guy had collapsed in relief, stating that this had been his last attempt at finding a sponsor for his research, as the research team had already been denied across hundreds of other organizations and individuals. The other members were already receiving lucrative job offers, and that day was his final deadline to find some semblance of funding to continue their research. Jeremy could not fault the other investors, as the man's claims had been so ludicrous. Only someone with literal billions of disposable wealth and a willingness to throw away millions down the drain would have done what he did. But thankfully he did, as just a year after the team made a major breakthrough that marveled the scientific community, a machine that could systematically drain greenhouse gases from the atmosphere at a global scale while converting the collected gases into energy. It was an unprecedented achievement that was only made possible through their very first investor, Jeremy Rothschild. The man in question, admittedly having completely forgotten about the research team, grabbed that opportunity by its neck, as have been taught by his parents who were taught by their parents before them, and milked that recognition for all it was worth. The Rothschild family also capitalized on Jeremy's initial investment and consequent launch to fame to fully fund the next steps for manufacturing the machine, intent on branding themselves as the family who found genius where it had been neglected and made possible the salvation of humanity. The theoretical machine was subsequently engineered, and prototypes produced. After just 5 years, the effects of global warming had been reversed to a sustainable level and the end of the world was prevented. While the Rothschild family and the research team garnered widespread recognition for their efforts, it was by Jeremy's meticulous design, with the aid of his PR team of course, that awarded him the most credit for the invention. Through liberal usage of his family's massive network of media connections, the world began associating Jeremy's name and face to the Eden machine that diverted the course of humanity's future. Fortunately enough, the head researcher who damn near single-handedly invented the whole thing was not at all interested in the fame and fortune behind his creation. He had also corroborated the narrative Jeremy and his team had spun for the global audience, that without Jeremy the whole project would not have been possible. Which was technically the truth, as without that initial $3 million Jeremy had nonchalantly and dismissively gave, the team would have disbanded, and the idea buried. Right, the Eden Project would not have been possible without my funding. Thus I indirectly helped 8 billion people. And the ones I helped directly were all the other random charitable donations I made throughout my life, or maybe even the people I employed. And the lives I saved indirectly must have been through all the millions of dollars in donations to the charities that were helping the vulnerable or impoverished around the world. Leaderboard rank 1 makes sense, I suppose, if it deemed that I had indirectly helped billions of people. Ha! Legacy hero mythic. My name has got to be going down in history as the man who saved the world, right? But wait, what is with that altruism multiplier? my best guess would be that this calculation takes into account whether I had altruistic intentions when helping or saving people. Ah shit, the reason behind my funding wasn't to help people at all, it was for tax reduction purposes so that I could pay less money to the state. And any subsequent money invested was also just to monopolize the fame and goodwill associated with such a project. A 0.01 multiplier means that my subtotal was divided by 100, right? That's why I got an S and instead of SSS plus, and what's with the 3 pluses, just looks and sounds ridiculous. Well, my intentions may have been impure, but the significance and impact of my actions are undeniable. That must be why I still got a really good score at the end. That head researcher guy is probably going to earn a shit ton more points than me because his motivations were not as corrupt as mine. Jeremy appraised his scorecard appreciatively. He was self-aware enough to know the results were not wrong and he had never been in denial that he was an intrinsically good person. His motivations were selfish, but so was everyone else's. No one could truthfully claim to have absolutely zero selfishness when doing any good deed, be it virtue signaling when sharing social justice tweets or helping the homeless so you could get into heaven, or even simply for the sake of the happiness or fulfillment one would feel from doing a good deed. No good deed was intrinsically selfless. That is probably why there was a multiplier which deducted points based on how good your intentions were when helping or saving anyone. So, what now? What's up with those wishes? At that word, the blue screen in front of him changed again, this time leaving only a single line. You have 3 wishes left. Please state your wish. Huh. What am I supposed to do with that? I would really appreciate just a little more clarification. You wish for a little more explanation for the wishes. Confirm. Whoa, wait, does that count as a wish? You wish for an answer to your question, does that count as a wish? Confirm. Now you're just making fun of me. Jeremy paused in thought. This was probably one of those genie's wishes, right? And it said in the beginning that I died. Well, I have got to hand it to my brain, it really came up with a weird-ass dream. Well, I have watched enough isekai anime to know what my first wish was going to be. I wish to be reincarnated in another world with my memories. It was not like my previous life held any more meaning for me. I had already accomplished all that one could achieve, fame, fortune, women, saving the world, what else could a man ask for? And since this is a dream anyways, might as well ask for something more fantastical than reincarnating back into plain old Earth. You wish to be reincarnated into another world with current memory. Confirm. Confirm. You have chosen to be reincarnated into another world. Checking karmic merits for option limitations. Karmic merit is probably referring to the overall karmic impact. Does that mean based on that my options for what world to reincarnate in will be limited? Result, unparalleled positive karmic impact option limits, limitless. Please select your world. Limitless. Holy shit, so unlike those isekai animes where the protagonist is randomly chucked into some generic fantasy world, there was no limit to what kind of world I could go into. The smartest and most meta choice would probably be a world that lets me go into any other world I want. Something like that would give me an endless number of anime or comic book worlds to explore, right? Parameters unspecified. Please select your world. Parameters unspecified. Doesn't limitless mean that there shouldn't be any parameters? Could you at least specify what options do I have or what kind of requests would be within your parameters? You wish for an explanation for reincarnation world selection. Confirm. Oh, come on. Be reasonable. Great, now it's going to ask if I wish for it to be reasonable. Request acknowledged. Please restate your question. That actually worked. Damn, I should have tried that sooner. Could you explain how selecting a world works? Your selection of a world to reincarnate must be one that exists. You can choose an existing world to be reincarnated in. Jeremy threw his hands up in frustration. That sucks. If I can only choose a world that exists, doesn't that mean my only choice is the one I came from? One that actually exists. Wait, define exists. What do you mean by an existing world? The system cannot create the idea of the world from scratch. It can only generate from an existing universe that has already been created by humanity. This is just confusing. What other existing universe are there? And what do you mean by created by humanity? Oh, hold up. Existing universe created by humanity does not literally mean created by humans. It just has to be something that came from the imagination of people. So existing universes is referring to the fictional worlds that have been created through the imagination of their creators, right? Correct. All right, I get it now. So let me clarify my question, and I am emphasizing that this is a question, not a wish. Could it be possible to reincarnate in the Marvel Universe, for instance? Those Marvel movies were something I thoroughly enjoyed when I was younger. Processing. Yes, it is possible to reincarnate in over 1,000 different realities in the Marvel multiverse. Oh hell yes. I probably can't choose an amalgamation of different fictional universes like the one I first asked for. The parameters, as this thing says, would be too unspecified. Then the limitless options probably means that I have and there aren't any limitations on which world I could choose due to my unparalleled positive karma, while for someone with lower karmic merits can perhaps choose only one of those 1,000 different realities. Now was the hard part, choosing which world to go to. Harry Potter. Not bad but a little bit boring. Marvel worlds were out. I barely remember any of the plot lines of those movies or comic books. I would be totally clueless. Besides, those worlds had godlike cosmic entities that were just too unpredictable. My choice would have to be a world that is both exciting, fun and somewhere I am knowledgeable about. If there was one such fictional story that I have watched multiple times over, its plot lines I was very familiar with and characters I would recognize, it would have to be Naruto. I was a huge fan of the anime, especially since I functionally grew up with it. I never had the time nor interest to watch the Boruto sequel, but I was confident in my knowledge of the Naruto universe. I wish to reincarnate into the Naruto universe. Naruto universe selected. Verifying. Select timeline. The selections were not displayed on the screen, but it somehow appeared in my mind. I knew what choices were available intuitively. The time periods I could be born in ranged from the inception of Chakra itself, the establishment of the elemental nations, the warring clans period, all the way to Boruto's timeline. But there was only one that actually interested me, which would of course be the canon timeline. Timeline selected. Verifying. Select origins. Again, the choices automatically appeared in my mind. The options were diverse. I could choose to be born in any country, in any particular village, and even any specific clan. If I was going to rely on my memory of the canonical meta-knowledge and thus use them to my maximum benefit, it had to be Konohagakure in the Land of Fire. As for which clan, the most overpowered ones could only be the Uchiha, Senju or Uzumaki clan, since those were the only two bloodlines that stemmed from the Rakudo Sennin, the legendary primogenitor of Shinobi. While the Senju clan held the Mokutan bloodline, it was also clear from the anime that not all Senju clan members awakened the Kekii Genkai. Whereas the Uzumaki clan possessed abilities that was arguably the least useful amongst the three. The most cheat-like ability would definitely go to the Uchiha clan's Sharinganais. Just the base form allowed one to copy jutsu, incredible dynamic vision and predictive capabilities. Not to mention all the subsequent evolutions, the Mangekyu, Eternal Mangekyu, and even the possibility to somehow awaken the Rin Sharingan in the future. Without a doubt, this was the best of the three choices. However, Jeremy was hesitant to be born in the Uchiha clan, given his foreknowledge of the Uchiha clan massacre. Furthermore, it would be difficult trying to hide his maturity and adult intellect amongst family members. Jeremy assumed a contemplative smile. In his previous life, he lived a life of exorbitant lavishness, without wants nor needs. Perhaps, this time he could try roughing it out with a tougher childhood. You have selected Naruto Universe, Rookie 9 Time Period, Land of Fire, Konohigakyo, Uchiha Ancestry, Orphan. Confirmed. Looking through it once more, Jeremy nodded. This was the best possible choice. Confirm. Wish granted. You have 2 wishes left. Please state your wish. Jeremy grinned. The next 2 wishes was obviously going to be the cheat he would bring along with him to the Naruto universe. He had to make sure the wish had to be as cheat-like as possible. Jeremy searched through his memories, trying to think of something from an anime or manga that would serve that very purpose. A few years back there were this anime that was extremely popular, and they had very similar concepts. It was called The Gamer, and it featured a protagonist that somehow or another acquired gamer-like abilities that allowed him to become stronger with an RPG-like interface. That was a cheat that had limitless possibilities. More specifically, however, he had his eyes on the gamer's body and gamer's mind ability. One would recover all injuries and status effects after a night's sleep, and the other ensured he would be able to face the potential dangers he was going to face calmly and logically. He didn't want to be permanently disabled or shit his pants when placed in life-threatening scenarios, even if this was all just a dream. I wish to be reincarnated with the abilities of the gamer. You wish to be reincarnated with the abilities of Han, the gamer. Confirm. Confirm. Verifying. Error. Modifying. Completed. The gamer abilities have been rebalanced for suitability of host and selected world. Certain inherent traits based on previous selections have now been quantified. Due to the gamer system interference, potential abilities and powers previously limited based on selected origins have now been made available and can now be accessed. Rebalanced. Can I get a list of the changes made to what I know of the gamer system? You wish for a list of changes made to the gamer system. Confirm. Oh, come on. Be reasonable. You wish for a list of changes made to the gamer system. Confirm. TSK. Worth a shot. Fine, forget it then. I ain't wasting a wish on that. Jeremy frowned, thinking of a way to maximize the benefits of his last wish. He turned to the screen. Is it possible for me to hold on to the wish for now and use it later when I really need to, or when I have thought of how to use it? Yes. Patching. You can now use the wish whenever you want to through the gamer system interface. Rewards have been distributed. Proceeding to character creation. rewards have been distributed. Proceeding to character creation. At this, the screen that had previously been the size of half his height enlarged to roughly 2.5 times its previous size. Within the screen now showed a life-size model of what could be described as a typical Uchiha teenager with black hair, dark eyes and pale skin, compared to his own healthy tan. Next to the figure was two left and right buttons, titled Preset Appearance. Jeremy deadpanned, cringing slightly at the generic RPG character creation menu that had appeared before him. I guess it kind of makes sense. I can't customize my appearance since I am going to be born to actual real parents, Uchiha or otherwise. It would be pretty wild for an Uchiha to have weird-ass pink hair. People might think I was a bastard Hirano child. Before scrolling through the preset options, however, he first found a prompt at the very top that asked for a name. Jeremy Rothschild, of course. Sorry, bad joke. If he was going to be living in the Naruto world, he had to have a similarly Japanese-sounding name to fit in after all. Taking inspiration from another of his favorites animes, he knew what was going to be his name, first name Shinji, last name Ikrai. Confirm. The first preset option had a very common appearance, a kind of forgettable face that would usually be deemed as villager G, skipping right through a to F. Given the choice to choose what he was going to look like once he grew up, he at least had to get a more attractive appearance. Jeremy began flipping through the preset options. Too fat, too skinny, nose is too big, this one has a butt chin, oh nice face but the eyes are too small, what's with that weird forehead? As he swiped through the options, he stopped at preset option #69. Haha, nice. Oh, Ixman. But he looks too similar to Sasuke, and I wouldn't want anyone to correctly guess I had Uchiha blood until I decide when it is time, so pass. A few more swipes and Jeremy found the perfect avatar. A handsome, but not too handsome face that looked different enough from Sasuke or Itachi. The preset option looked more like Kiba with paler skin, charcoal black hair, sharper nose and cheekbones, and obviously sung the distinctive red fang markings on his cheeks. Alright, next up, lineage. Father, Uchiha. Mother, blank. A drop-down list of options was available, which only revealed one background, civilian. No senju option for the possibility of Mokutan bloodline or any other choice really. Seeing no other alternative, he could only select the civilian background, and with that he ended character creation. Character created. Confirm. This time, a physical button was present with a yes/no option. Holding back a sigh, Jeremy pressed on yes. Character confirmed. Processing. Jeremy gave an excited grin before frowning. That was really fun, but too bad this was all just a dream and he was going to wake up soon. But it was still entertaining while it lasted, and he just had to compliment his brain for imagining such a fun little scenario. Reincarnating user in 10 seconds. This time, please remember true altruism comes from a place of selflessness and not just the deed itself. And most importantly, have fun. Without a warning, the sea of green around him swirled into a kaleidoscope of colors, before being subsumed into an all-encompassing blackness that first swallowed the blue screen in front of him and then quickly consuming his body. It went from the brightness of a green that reminded him of the one place he had always been the most comfortable at to an instant darkness that swallowed his surprised yell. underscore 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 MC's POV. I woke up from my bed, yawning slightly and giving my torso a light stretch. Oh man, that was a really weird dream I just had. And strangely enough, I can remember everything that just happened. Don't people usually forget most or at least some of their dreams when they wake up? Must have been different for lucid dreams, I suppose. You have slept in a bed. HP and CP has been fully restored. I chuckled. My overactive imagination must have still been hallucinating my dreams. I swiped a hand through the translucent blue screen and saw it faded away. See? My brain that had just woken up was just playing a trick on me. Good morning, brain. Please function properly. I have an interview with Vogue later that I can't mess up. I opened my eyes blearily, still adjusting to the light, only to find myself not in my penthouse New York apartment, but in a dusty, bland old room. I was not on my 1,000-thread count luxurious bed, but on an even dustier and older blanket than the surrounding architecture, if that was possible. The room I was in had dirty walls, and childish doodles drawn in crayon or some other material covered a good third of the peeling wallpaper, and a distinct smell of what I perceived to be poverty emanated from the surrounding furniture, which consisted of little ramshackle beds, chairs and tables, shelves, and in a corner of the room a box of what seemed to be broken toys or other items in various states of disrepair. My first and immediate thought was that I had been kidnapped, which almost impressed me, as I had seemingly been abducted from my home, a fortified bunker designed as a posh, upscale apartment, which was guarded by a platoon of very professional and very lethal bodyguards, all without being woken up. My second thought, however, was cut short as I looked down and found that my decidedly adult, 34-year-old body had been replaced by the body of a bloody toddler. My hands were tiny, with grubby little fingers that looked softer than marshmallows. I almost screamed in shock before catching myself and realizing that the kidnappers who turned me into a child could possibly hear me. That very line of thought was absurd, yet there could be no other explanation. I looked around desperately before spotting a body-length mirror on the opposite wall that spotted 2 long cracks and a large fragment missing from the bottom corner. Rushing to it, I observed the visage before me. My formerly dirty blonde hair had been replaced by charcoal black locks. The eyes that stared back at me was an unfamiliar black, instead of the usual hazel brown. My sun-kissed tan had faded into an almost unhealthy paleness. And most crucially, I was in the body of a 7-year-old child. Seeing the face, my face, I was immediately reminded of the character I had created in my dreams. Yes, my dream. It was all just a dream, right? I pinched my cheeks, and felt the distinctive light sting from my now childlike fingers. Ouch! This couldn't be happening. I gasped. If this was somehow real, then last night's dream. I had to test it out. Status. A translucent blue screen appeared out of thin air. Name, Shinji Ikrai. Age, 7. Level, 1. Next level, 0/100. HP, 100/100. CP, 350/350. STR, 1. VIT, 1. DEX, 3. Int, 6. Char, 3.0. Rio 0. Fuck. Status. A translucent blue screen appeared out of thin air. Name, Shinji Ikrai. Age, 7. Level, 1. Next level, 0/100. HP, 100/100. CP, 350/350. STR, 1. VIT, 1. DEX, 3. INT, 6. CHAR, 3.0. RIO 0. Fuck. Shinji, language. A matronly voice came from the room door. I turned to the direction of the voice and saw a middle-aged woman frowning at me. I tilted my head in confusion for a second before a surge of memories flashed through my mind. Kurodari, the head caretaker of the Konoha orphanage. She was a kindly mother figure for the 30 or so other orphans along with several other part-time workers or volunteers. Sorry, Rebazen. I hesitantly replied, unsure of whether she would be able to notice that I was not acting like I used to. Come on, you woke up late. Go get your morning chores done quickly or the other kids won't leave any breakfast for you. Quest alert. Morning chores. Complete your chores within 20 minutes. Make your bed, 0/1. Water the garden, 0/1. Wipe down room windows, 0/10. Dust room surfaces, 0/1. Rewards. Plus 20 EXP. Rep slightly increased with Rep slightly increased with Konoha Orphanage. Failure. Rep slightly decreased with Kurodari. Rep slightly decreased with Konoha Orphanage. No breakfast. Accept. Y/N. I'm going to have to get used to this. I muttered under my breath while reading through the latest quest notification and absent-mindedly accepting the quest. Ri clapped her hands to get my attention. What are you spacing out for? Get a move on. I gulped and began making my way to my bed, looking down at it in confusion. How do I make a bed? Quest, morning chores, failed. Time's up. Make your bed, 1/1. Water the garden, 0/1. Wipe down room windows, 7/10. Dust room surfaces, 1/1. Failure. Rep slightly decreased with Kurodari. Rep slightly decreased with Konoha Orphanage. No breakfast. Note, did you really just fail your very first quest? Congratulations. You have just failed your very first quest. You have earned title, incompetent. I cursed in my head at the quest failure notification, my hand still wiping down one of the goddamn windows. Why did the first quest have to be chores, damn it? I have literally never once in my life ever made a bed or watered a garden for crying out loud. I had servants to make my bed, housekeepers to clean windows and gardeners to tend to the garden. I wasted 5 minutes alone just trying to figure out how I was supposed to wipe down the windows. Turns out, just using a dry rag didn't cut it. I figured that out after wiping repeatedly only for the quest window to remain unchanged. I had to seek out Ri and ask her how to clean the windows properly, which prompted a strange look from her as she chastised me for not remembering something that I have been doing every day for the past year. Ri pointed out I had to first wet the cloth before wiping down the windows, which worked immediately as I saw the updated quest window. I did receive a stat point during the course of the quest, however. When I decided to look for Ri for some guidance, I received a notification message that stated, "For thinking things through logically and making a rational decision, +1 int dot." That wasn't bad at all, but I still failed the quest though. Grumbling to myself, I called out my status window to check out the newly added title. Really? Incompetent. How could I be expected to automatically learn how to do chores when I have never done anything remotely alike for my whole life? Incompetent, minus 20% for all EXP gained. What the foo, that's way too harsh just for failing one quest, right? Is it permanent? I continued my internal protests as I now lost all motivation to clean the stupid windows in front of me. How do I get rid of that title? Goddamn night system, can you provide some help here? Wait, could it possibly be help? Nothing happened. Menu. Settings. Options. I rapidly fired through a few more prompts but no dice. Skills. Skills. Gamer's body, LVL, max. Grants a body that allows for the user to live the real world like a game. After sleeping in a bed, HP and MP is fully restored and status effects are cured. No physical injuries will be taken from attacks, only pain for a few seconds and loss of HP. Gamer's mind, LVL, max. Allows the user to calmly and logically think things through. Allows peaceful state of mind. Immunity to mental disorders. The gamer's body and gamer's mind skill worked as I expected it to. How about inventory? The classic translucent blue screen appeared again, this time containing a grid-like structure containing 5x5 squares. Nothing was in it except 3 items within. Hand-me-down shirt, E. Durability, 3/5. Hand-me-down shorts, E. Durability, 4/5. Worn sandals, E. Durability, 4/5. Out of curiosity I slipped off the sandals and saw the E symbol beside the item disappear. That probably stood for equipped. This system is really not explaining anything at all. I was going to have to figure it all out on my own. It has been a week since my arrival into the Narutoverse, and it was a week spent exploring my newfound abilities. I managed to gather more information about the gamer system through extensive trial and error. Firstly, I received an explanation on the stats and their effects on me. HP stood for hit points, obviously, and determined how much damage I could sustain before it hits 0, and I was not keen on finding out what would happen after that. CP quantified the amount of chakra I had at my disposal. STR was just what it sounded like. It mainly determined my physical strength and damage I could dish out. DEX corresponded to dexterity, influencing my overall speed and nimbleness and finesse. VIT increased my HP and overall stamina and at higher levels could reduce damage received. INT stood for intelligence and it increased my learning speed, memory, CP and even chakra recovery. CHAR was my quantified charisma, a really odd stat which the system only explained as affecting social interactions and others' perceptions of me. Rep, I assumed to represent reputation. However, there had been no way to view the total amount of rep points I had with anyone, nor was there any quantifiable measurement of how much rep was gained from the quests. The only real indication of how much rep I lost or gained was through the descriptive adjectives attached to the messages that I have observed to range from slightly to significantly. The rep points could be gained or lost from quests or even my daily actions and words. When I had complimented Ri on her new haircut I gained a slight rep increase, but when I accidentally broke a window during one of my evening chores, my rep decreased significantly. She had given me the cold shoulder for the rest of the day, but thankfully I managed to grind back rep points by taking the initiative to help the other kids with their chores. Speaking of the other kids, there were quite 30 or so of them staying in the orphanage. The youngest was only 2 years old while I, along with another girl, was the oldest. It turned out that Konoha's public education not only provided free education for orphans, but also lodgings and allowances for when we entered the Shinobi Academy. Thus, there were no other children aged 8 or above still living in the orphanage, as that was the age they started the Shinobi Academy. The other child my age was a plain-looking girl that I realized had a major puppy crush on me, or rather the Shinji Ikari that had resided in my body before my arrival. Unsurprising, as the body I was inhabiting now was a super cute 7-year-old, plus I was the only other one her age after all. She was kinda clingy, but I had to go along with it to maintain my facade as a 7-year-old boy playing with a same-aged girl. Every innocuous gesture or praise I gave granted me significant rep boosts with her. It was educational, at least, as I could experiment with some of the gamer system mechanics. I realized that no one other than me could see the system notifications such as the status screen or inventory screen. Thus, if I placed something within my inventory, it would look as if the object was disappearing in midair. I would have thought that was going to be difficult to explain to the girl when she first witnessed a branch disappearing into my inventory, but I easily convinced her that she was mistaken, and the branch was obviously right there on the floor, after I discreetly removed it from my inventory. She believed me instantly and had no further questions about the subject, which was probably the result of the presumably huge rep score I had with her. Next, I also received quite a few quests which helped me figure out how quests were generated in the first place. It was a strange combination that vaguely took into account what I needed to do and what I wanted to do. For example, every day I had at least 2 guaranteed quests generated: my morning chores quest and evening chores quest. Both provided 20 EXP and slight EXP increases. Thankfully, after my disastrous first quest, I quickly learned from my mistakes and began completing the quests with no issue. But quests were also generated based on things that I wanted to do but was also necessary. For example, I had received the second quest following the first morning chores, when I began wondering how big was the orphanage that came along with the necessity to orient myself to my new environment. Quest alert. Explore the orphanage. Investigate the Konoha orphanage. Go through every room in the estate and discover their purpose. 0/12. Rewards. Plus 50 EXP. Failure. New title. Rep slightly decreased with Kurodari. Rep slightly decreased with Konoha orphanage. I had immediately grimaced at the quest failure consequences. I already had the incompetent title. What would I receive if I failed another one? Thankfully, walking around was not as difficult as making a bed for me, at least, not to mention most rooms had signs that communicated their purpose. However, the question mark had gotten me thinking. The quest rewards had a similar question mark, which I could only deduce represented a hidden objective and corresponding hidden reward. The implication being that the quest was not as simple as it appeared. Thus, I carefully investigated every nook and cranny of the building. Oh, and I also received another +1 int after that deduction. At the end of the exploration, I had discovered a hidden stash of cigarettes, some porno mags, a blunt kunai and some blunt shuriken, a tattered Academy issue guide on body conditioning, various sweets and candy littered behind crawl spaces, and even some money. The biggest challenge I faced was actually Ri's office. Not because it was locked or anything like that, but because upon entering and searching through the shelves, I had found that it was exceedingly inconspicuous. I suspected something had to be hidden in a place as important as the head caretaker's office, but I had not been able to find anything. But when I opened the drawers of Ri's desk, and looked underneath it, I discovered the unmistakable mechanism of a false bottom secret compartment. I had quite a few of those manufactured for myself in my previous life, so I was familiar with how it worked. Pushing against down on the further end of the drawer, the front end tilted upwards, allowing me to lift the false bottom to reveal the contents of Ree's secret compartment. It was another porno mag. With a blank face, I immediately returned the false bottom back in its proper place and made sure to make it seem untouched. The revelation that Ree was a closet pervert had been slightly disturbing but understandable as well. From what I could remember, she was someone who spent almost every waking hour of her days taking care of a few dozen children. Needing some adult entertainment was not unreasonable. I had also received another notification after successfully completing my second quest. Quest: Explore the orphanage, completed. Investigate the Konoha orphanage. Go through every room in the estate and discover their purpose. 12/12. Hidden, find one secret stash. 5/1. Hidden, discover Ree's secret compartment. Square root. Rewards: plus 50 EXP. Plus 10 EXP per secret stash found. Skill: Observe. Congratulations! You have completed your first quest. Bonus 100% EXP to quest reward. Congratulations! You have completed all hidden objectives of a quest for the first time. You have earned title, Competent. New title, Competent, has been cancelled out by title, Incompetent. Title, Incompetent, has turned into title, Slightly Incompetent. You have leveled up. Congratulations! You have leveled up for the first time. Double stat points gained. I had immediately checked my status upon quest completion. Name: Shinji Ikrai. Age: 7. Level: 2. Next level: 100/150. HP: 150/150. CP: 500/500. STR: 1. VIT: 1. DEX: 3. Int: 8. Char: 3. Points: 10. Rio 150. Titles: Slightly Incompetent, minus 10% for all EXP gained. The previous had now been replaced with a new one, and the effects were less harsh than before as well. The first time, messages were amazing in its effects, but thinking back on the first title, they also penalized as much as it rewarded. I realized every level up would grant me 5 stat points to distribute into my attributes, but now I had 10 stat points due to the first time achievement. I decided to withhold stat point distribution until I really needed them. Other than the daily chore quests I received from the system, other quests were also created when someone of authority requested something of me or asked for a favor. However, not every request would be translated into a quest. Picking up a pen redropped did not count as a quest, but when she had asked me to help out in the kitchen, a quest was created. Through this system I was able to successfully complete around 3 to 5 quests a day, accumulating EXP to level up twice more. Some of them even gave money as a reward, which was automatically added to my inventory. Additionally, I was also able to create some new skills and grind up the levels of existing ones. As expected, just like the gamer anime, I was also able to create new skills through repeated actions. My current status and skills page looked like this. Name: Shinji Ikrai. Age: 7. Level: 5. Next level: 300/750. HP: 550/550. CP: 900/900. STR: 7. VIT: 6. DEX: 9. Int: 13. Char: 3. points 25. Rio 580. Skills. Observe, active, LVL, 3. The ability to read information about the targeted object or person through observation. Improved proficiency in the ability reveals more information. Basic body conditioning, passive, LVL, 3. Increases your body's strength, speed and endurance through training. Plus 3% to physical damage. Plus 3% to movement speed. Minus 3% to physical damage taken. Plus 3% to physical stat growth rate. Shuriken Jutsu, passive, LVL, 1. Increases accuracy of thrown shuriken and kunai by 10%. Knife fighting, passive, LVL, 1. Increases damage dealt with small, bladed weapons by 10%. Beginner Taijutsu Mastery, passive, LVL, 1. Plus 1% to physical damage. Plus 1% to movement speed. Meditation, active, LVL, 2. Plus 20% to CP regeneration. Plus 20% to HP regeneration. Skills like cleaning or dishwashing was, surprisingly, not created even through repeated actions. It seemed like created skills were almost exclusively related to combat. The basic body conditioning skill was created after reading the tattered Academy Guide on Body Conditioning I had found on my exploration quest. It was basic information about how to properly exercise and strengthen our muscles through bodyweight training, information that was a little common sense, but I was grateful for the skill regardless. Similarly, the Shuriken Jutsu and knife fighting were a result of me experimenting with the blunt kunai and shuriken I had found. After throwing the shuriken against a tree a few times, the skill was naturally created, and I could immediately feel a slight improvement in my accuracy. However, my aim was still atrocious. I had also practiced wielding a kunai, stabbing and slashing at the air. Beginning Taijutsu Mastery was created when I threw a few traditional 1-2 combos at a tree, mixing up the attacks on the poor, immobile tree with kicks, hooks and some fundamental footwork I had learned over a decade ago in my previous life from the few lessons I had in kickboxing. Observe was an ability I had received from my orphanage exploration quest, and was something I would be eternally grateful for. It was able to show me information about any object or person that I concentrated on. For example, if I looked at a table and used my observation skill, I would be able to see something like wooden table. A table made of wood found in the Konoha orphanage. And as the observe skill leveled up further, I was able to see more information, especially on people or weapons. When I observed the blunt kunai in my inventory, I saw this. Training kunai grade, common. A roughly made kunai made of scrap iron, blunted for training purposes. Durability, 14/15. Damage, F. Rather than a numerical damage value, the damage the weapon was inherently capable of was given a letter grade to measure its lethality. I would have to assume the lowest grade was F, as the blunt kunai could not even hurt a fly. Different levels of observe showed me different amounts of information about a person. At level 1, all I could see was their name, level and some information. At level 2, it showed me their max HP count and added on to the information available. At level 3, I was able to see their max and current HP and CP as well as additional information about the target. Observing the caretaker Barzan with the level 3, observe, showed me her status. Name, Kuroda Re LV14. HP, 1200/1200. CP, 300/300. Ri is the head caretaker of Konoha Orphanage. She cares deeply for the children under her care and tries her best to make sure they are taken care of and sheltered from the dangers outside the orphanage walls. While she can be stern at times to the children, she ultimately has their best interests at heart. She thinks that Shinji is a cute but curious child who sometimes acts strangely. The other orphan children mostly had levels of 1 and 2, with the only other 7-year-old girl being at 3. I had grumbled how unfair it was I started at level 1, but I was rapidly catching up, so it was fine. For now I was still unable to see the stat count of people with my level 3, observe, but hopefully it would be possible at higher levels. I was able to increase stats such as STR and VIT through the body conditioning exercises and DEX from my practice with the Shuriken and Kunai, and my int from reading the few books the orphanage had and making a few intelligent and logical decisions through rational thought. The books gave me some desperately needed general knowledge about the world and its history too. There were also some quests created when I was sneakily training my newly acquired skills. They mainly related to accomplish some sort of achievement corresponding to the skills that I had been practicing in. However, I only managed to successfully complete 1 out of the 3 quests generated. Quest: Amateur Shuriken Jutsu, failed. Achieve more than 50% accuracy out of a 100 shuriken thrown from 15 m away, x. Hit 10 bullseye, 1/10. Rewards: plus 100 EXP. Plus 1 LVL to Shuriken Jutsu. Failure: none. Quest: Create your own fighting style, failed. Create your own fighting style out of your past martial arts experience, x. Rewards: plus 100 EXP. Plus 1 LVL to beginner Taijutsu mastery. Plus 1 LVL to created fighting style. Failure: none. Quest: Hit the gym, completed. Get basic body conditioning to level 2 by the end of the day, square root. Rewards: plus 100 EXP. Plus 1 LVL to basic body conditioning. Failure: none. I hesitate to call the quests unreasonable, but yes, they definitely were very unreasonable. I only barely managed to increase my body conditioning level through sheer grit and determination before receiving the level up notification and collapsing in agony. Additionally, the slightly incompetent title had been removed a few days after I got it, after I managed to complete 10 quests in a row successfully. Thank Kami for that, as the 10% reduced experience was really taking a toll. I also found out that I would be entering the Shinobi Academy in roughly a month's time, and a week before that I would have to start moving out of the orphanage and into the student dormitory the village had prepared for the Orphan Academy students. We did not have to pay for utilities, rent and academy fees, and would even be receiving 20,000 Ryo a month as an allowance. It was a sizable sum that roughly translated to perhaps $2,000. We had to use the funds provided to buy our own groceries as well any other daily necessities including clothes or training materials. I had taken the past week to slowly orient myself to my new environment, gathering information, picking up the common sense of this world as well as acquiring some general knowledge of the village. I had only ventured out of the orphanage a couple times the last few days, primarily for the purposes of checking out the surrounding area. The original Shinji Ikari similarly did not have very much experiences with the world outside of the orphanage, as the children were sheltered protectively by the head caretaker, Ri. Only the oldest, like myself and that other girl, were permitted to travel outside the orphanage gates without supervision, but with some limitations as to how far we were allowed to go and a curfew to boot. My initial hesitancy to dive right into training with chakra was also contributed by my concern that we might be watched by Danza's root agents, and if I showed any exceptional talent I might be taken and forcibly recruited into the organization. However, as I started practicing the Taijutsu and Shuriken Jutsu, I realized my talent was paltry as compared to some of the real geniuses. Furthermore, basic chakra exercises were not as restricted as I had thought. When I explored the outskirts of the orphanage, I witnessed more than one child younger than me, presumably clan members, who were training in the leaf concentration exercise. Thus, after the week-long delay, I was finally going to start training in the chakra control exercises. I have a month to get myself up to scratch before my first day of the Shinobi Academy. Quest alert. Preparations. Train yourself before entering the Shinobi Academy. Increase your level up to 6. Increase your Shuriken Jutsu up to LVL 3. Increase your basic body conditioning up to LVL 5. Increase your beginner Taijutsu mastery to LVL 3. Learn the leaf concentration exercise. Increase your leaf concentration exercise to LVL 3. Rewards. New title. +2 to all stats. +1 LVL to all skills. Failure. New title. Rep decreased with Rookie 9. Rep decreased with Shinobi Academy. Skill, basic body conditioning, has leveled up. As I received the latest notification, I steadily slowed down my pace from my run. Half a minute later, I stopped completely and rested my hands atop my knees, taking in large, deep breaths for my oxygen-deprived lungs. Wiping away the sweat soaking my face, I took a quick glance around me to check if anyone was looking before I silently summoned my inventory and reached in for an ice-cold bottle of water. While greedily guzzling down the much-needed water, I summoned up my skills to check out the new effects. Skills. Observe, active, LVL 3. The ability to read information about the targeted object or person through observation. Improved proficiency in the ability reveals more information. Basic body conditioning, passive, LVL 5. Increases your body's strength, speed and endurance through training. +5% to physical damage. +5% to movement speed. -5% to physical damage taken. +5% to physical stat growth rate. Shuriken Jutsu, passive, LVL 3. Increases accuracy of thrown shuriken and kunai by 30%. Increases damage dealt by thrown shuriken and kunai by 30%. Knife fighting, passive, LVL 2. Increases damage dealt with small, bladed weapons by 20%. Beginner Taijutsu mastery, passive, LVL 3. +3% to physical damage. +3% to movement speed. Meditation, active, LVL 4. +30% to CP regeneration. +30% to HP regeneration. Leaf concentration exercise, passive /active, LVL 4. CP cost, 3.5 per second. +4% to chakra control. Stealth, passive, LVL 3. When sneaking, +15% harder to be detected. It has been roughly 3.5 weeks since I got that insane preparation quest, and it had required me to focus almost entirely on leveling up the aforementioned skills. Especially for the first 3 weeks or so, since I could only train when for a limited amount of time every day. I had begun training openly with Ri's permission when I managed to convince her that since I was starting Shinobi Academy soon, I wanted to make sure I was ready. While she had reluctantly approved, there were some conditions attached. Due to Ri's concern that I would injure or overexert myself, she limited my training time to only 2 hours a day, and she had prohibited me from experimenting with any form of chakra usage. Since there was no way I would be able to complete the quest with those restrictions, I had to squeeze in every possible opportunity to level up my skills, including sneaking out of the orphanage at night to train more. That was also when I received my stealth skill, and which proved to be a good way to train my sneaking skills as well. Fortunately, the leaf control exercise was easy to hide when I practiced, as I managed to attach several leaves under my shirt, on my torso or upper arm, and was able to continuously grind its level. Through it, I also figured out how to view my CP regeneration rate when I started actively using my chakra for the first time. It would appear next to my CP count in my status screen whenever any amount of chakra was consumed. Currently, my CP restored at a rate of 1% every minute, while every int point would increase the chakra recovery rate by 1% of that 1%. Meaning that hypothetically, if I had 1000 CP and 20 int, my chakra would recover by 10 per minute, and the 20 int points would raise that by 20%, totaling up to 12 per minute. Thus, I would need a 100 int points in order to double my CP recovery rate. It was not as slow as it might first appear, however, as I could further increase the CP recovery through meditation, allowing me to only take an hour's break to completely restore my chakra reserves whenever I depleted it. Moreover, the entire ordeal provided an opportunity to further experiment with some of the system's properties. I found out I only needed a minimum of 5 hours of sleep in order to fully restore my HP and CP after waking up, and when I tried sleeping less, the amount of HP and CP restored reduced proportionately. Once, I stayed up the entire night, curious to see if I would receive any negative side effects or if I would receive a sleep deprivation status effect. I discovered that while I was able to function without sleep, after the first 36 hours I indeed received a temporary, sleep-deprived, status effect that reduced my stats by 10%, and an additional 10% for every subsequent 12 hours I remained awake after that. Equipped with this newfound knowledge, I attempted to maximize my training hours by staying up for 36 hours every 2 days and only taking quick, 3-hour naps, which recovered my HP and CP by 60%. However, even with my gamer's mind skill that protected me from any mental disorders, going through that prolonged period of self-imposed Spartan lifestyle quickly proved to be mentally exhausting and unhealthy. Despite not receiving any negative effects following that schedule, I did not have the persistence or perhaps single-mindedness to consistently maintain such a rigorous training regimen. Thus, instead of pursuing maximum efficiency, I obliged my desire to preserve a lifestyle that still somewhat resembled normal human behavior by staying up just once or twice a week and having at least 5 hours of sleep every night. Another thing that I had discovered was that illusion barriers like the ones in the gamer anime didn't exist. Or at least I had no way of creating them yet. I cringed as I recalled learning that the hard way, as I had embarrassedly tried holding my hand up and yelling various versions of ID Create or Instant Dungeon. To no avail, and my own chagrin. I had also started to explore Konohigakyo. Since I was under the strict gaze of the head caretaker Ri, who limited my physical training hours, I took to touring the renowned Hidden Leaf village that I had only seen on screen before. Firstly, the village was really more like the size of a small city. There were 2 main commercial districts that serviced the 2 separate citizenry, the Shinobi side and the civilian side. Residential areas were littered throughout the village, but from what I could observe, the civilian and Shinobi population were generally segregated. Incidentally, The Konoha orphanage was located near outskirts of the village in a civilian residential district. Access to the training grounds were restricted for Shinobi only to prevent any accidents that involved wandering civilians walking into potentially destructive ninjutsu, and the only non-Shinobi exclusive sort of training area was a large open patch of land that had a dedicated running track for civilians to stay active and keep themselves healthy, which was where I am currently training right now. I also visited the Konoha library when I had the bright idea to browse through their stockpiles of jutsu scrolls and start absorbing them to create skills. However, I had soon found out that most types of jutsu scrolls were instead located in a jutsu depository kept under lock and key in the Hokage's tower, while the Shinobi section of the library only contained E and D ranked jutsu scrolls. And even worse, the Shinobi section was strictly restricted to Shinobi Academy students and active Shinobi only. Which meant that I was not allowed to just stroll in and absorb skills willy-nilly. The civilian section, on the other hand, contained volumes of books on a variety of different subjects, of which I had been mostly disinterested in. Rather than investing my time in agricultural tomes, I had been more intrigued by general knowledge subjects and the history of the Naruto-verse. Partly due to my interest in the subject, but also to raise my int levels from reading the books, as well as to read up on some of the material that will be covered in the Shinobi Academy ahead of time. Even then I could not get myself to immerse myself in the literature. I could never have been considered a keen student or an eager learner in my past life. I only studied enough to achieve the minimum standards that was expected of someone in my station. My parents were never a stern sort either, never really pushing me towards academic excellence, nor was I myself particularly motivated to get good grades. Growing up with the awareness that I would never be troubled financially did wonders to dampen any sort of ambition or desire to succeed. After all, I would never be able to surpass the legacy my prestigious dynasty had managed to establish, or so I had thought. A week from my admission to the Shinobi Academy I finally left the orphanage and moved into the academy student dormitory provided for orphan students. It was a small, studio apartment that contained the barest necessities such as substandard furniture and some antiquated appliances. While I was now deprived of the admittedly comforting and therapeutic presence of the other children, in return I was free from the watchful gaze of the head caretaker and additionally received 20,000 ryo as a monthly allowance. The sudden gain of a large sum of disposable income immediately sent me shopping for some upgrades to the current hovel that would be my home for the next few years. The unsatisfactory food I ate at the orphanage was replaced with some actual decent cuts of meats, cheeses, and fresh produce. Silky bed sheets were purchased to replace the rough linen cloth that covered my bed, some comfortable chairs and decent-looking furniture to furnish the apartment as well as decorations to adorn my shelves and walls. At the end of the shopping spree I realized I had spent nearly half of the money that was expected to last me for the next month. And that was also when I registered that my concept of money and financial common sense was out of whack as a result of the opulent lifestyle I had always enjoyed in my previous life. I had no choice but to return some of the furniture and decorations to the stores, who were merciful enough to do so without issue. But the store owners chided me for my reckless spending when I explained my situation. But I had to keep the comfortable bed sheets and fluffy comforter because the coarse and scratchy bed sheets that I had from the orphanage were already driving me crazy. Other than that, I also bought some new clothes as well. I picked out a series of different colored long-sleeve t-shirts as well as some shorts and 2 pairs of black Shinobi sandals. I also wanted to buy some sharpened kunai and shuriken, as opposed to the blunted training weapons I had in my possession, but purchase of deadly Shinobi weaponry was unexpectedly only available to Shinobi Academy students and active ninjas. So I had to make do with what I had at least until I entered the academy proper. Initially, I was somewhat stumped when dinner time came, and I just stared at the ingredients I had bought in the day. I bought some premium produce along with some herbs and spices I somewhat recalled seeing on menus in my previous life, like thyme and rosemary. But I didn't know what I was expecting to happen, as I clearly had no idea what to do with them. Thankfully, however, after some time searching through the fragmented memories of the original Shinji Ikari, and some hours I myself spent helping out in the orphanage kitchen, I managed to piece together a decent steak that was adequately seasoned and garnished. Coupled with a couple slices of cheese atop a slice of sourdough bread, I had my first tolerable meal since I arrived in this world. I also felt somewhat regretful that I was not able to get wine that would have utterly perfected dinner. The next big challenge was laundry, and even though I was somewhat aware detergent or something similar was necessary to properly wash my clothes, I unfortunately had no clue what to even do with it. So I settled for just soaking them in water and letting them dry in the sun to get rid of any stink. With the freedom to intensify my physical training and 3 additional weeks of pseudo-intense training, I was naturally able to improve my once mediocre stats, which I could unabashedly say looked pretty decent now. Name, Shinji Ikari. Age, 7. Level, 8. Next level, 700/1800. HP, 1300/1300. CP, 3245/3245. STR, 22. VIT, 18. DEX, 27. INT, 51. CHA, 5. Points 18. Rio 16,830. Perks. Lesser chakra sensitivity. You have acquired a burgeoning talent in your ability to sense and manipulate chakra. Plus 20% to chakra-related skill effects. Plus 10% increase to CP recovery rate. Plus 10% increase to max CP. Minus 10% CP cost to all chakra-related skills. I had received the lesser chakra sensitivity perk when I reached 50 int after deciding to pump in some of the free points I had available. My reasoning being that since I was going to enter the Shinobi Academy soon, I was going to need the boost to my general intelligence, reasoning skills and memory improvement in order to soak in as much knowledge as I could while I was there. I was also able to raise my level up to 8 owing to the routine daily quests as well as my proactive approach in generating quests. I went out of my way to ask if people needed my help with something, setting goals and milestones for my training and generally exploring the village in search for side quests. The quests created through this process were not anything special, but still provided me with a steady supply of EXP which I gratefully accepted. In 2 days' time I would be entering the Shinobi Academy, however I have yet to complete the preparations quest. I pulled up the quest log, checking on my progress. Quest, preparations, incomplete. Train yourself before entering the Shinobi Academy. Increase your level up to 8, square root. Increase your Shuriken Jutsu up to LVL 3, square root. Increase your basic body conditioning up to LVL 5, square root. Increase your beginner Taijutsu mastery to LVL 3, square root. Learn the leaf concentration exercise, square root. Increase your leaf concentration exercise to LVL 3, square root. Rewards. New title. +2 to all stats. +1 LVL to all skills. Failure. New title. Rep decreased with Rookie 9. Rep decreased with Shinobi Academy. To be more specific, with my latest, basic body conditioning, level up notification, I have managed to complete all of the known objectives. However, the hidden objectives were still unknown to me. Based on my experience with previous quests containing hidden objectives, unless I accomplished all objectives of the quest, including hidden ones, I will only be able to find out what they were at the end of the deadline. That is to say, as of this moment, I have yet to accomplish one or both of the hidden objectives. Putting away the now empty water bottle back into my inventory, I made my way back to my new apartment since I have achieved my today's goal of leveling up that skill. While walking, I inconspicuously picked up some leaves and reached into my shirt to attach some of them on my torso using the leaf concentration exercise. With my current CP pool, I was able to maintain 3 leaves simultaneously for slightly more than 5 minutes before my chakra was depleted. This was mainly due to the still relatively high CP consumption the leaf concentration exercise had. However, as the CP cost reduced by 0.5 for every level of the skill, when I reached level 10, presumably the max, it would only take up 0.5 CP per second. At the same time, I was also constantly spamming my observe skill on anything or anyone that crossed my path. Since a month ago, the level of the skill had remained unchanged for reasons unknown to me. It was uncertain whether it was an issue of quantity or quality of the usage of the skill. Regardless, I still used it as frequently as I could, hoping it might make a difference. From what I could gather, as of now the observe skill was only able to show me information about a targeted person that was readily apparent, such as minute body language or facial cues that only an artificial intelligence, or a veteran psychiatrist, would be able to pick up. The system gathered these nuanced expressions and compiled them into a summarized report every time I targeted someone with observe. And I would similarly be able to obtain more information based on how well I knew the individual involved. For example, once, upon scanning a genin, the system showed me that he was a genin of Konohigakyo and was a taijutsu specialist. I guessed that the system was able to deduce that based on the wrappings around his knuckles and perhaps through his gait or something similarly abstract. I came to that conclusion when I coincidentally encountered the very namesake of this universe on the streets once, Uzumaki Naruto himself. It was only for a brief moment as he was running past me laughing and grinning, away from several irate civilian shopkeepers. I almost wanted to run after him just so I could meet the infamous Jinchuriki in person, but stopped myself before casting observe on him. Uzumaki Naruto LV6. HP 3800/3800. CP 19,380/19,380. Naruto is a fellow orphan of Konohigakyo. He is a boisterous and energetic boy who loves pranking. Even though the village seems to keep him at a distance or avoids the child for some reason, he still persists on getting their attention through whatever means necessary. He has no opinion of you. Aside from the ridiculously large chakra reserve for a 7 or 8-year-old child, there had been no other indication of his condition as the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi that could be seen in his status. Even if I knew from meta-knowledge that he did indeed contain the Baijua, without observe being at a higher level or the information being readily apparent, I would not be able to see it on his status. This also meant that as of right now, observe would be unable to see past disguises or henge without increasing its level. Hence my eagerness to level up the skill. Without any incident, I made it back to the student dormitory complex, a mid-sized building that even featured a small training ground in front for its occupants. There, I noticed several other children who were resting at the benches provided. Yo! I greeted as I walked up to them. The three of them turned towards me, waving back. "Oh Shinji, back so soon?" one of them asked. They were my senpai at the Shinobi Academy who also stayed in the Shinobi dormitories as they themselves were orphans. I met them ready to welcome me to the apartment complex the day I moved into the dormitory. Searching through my memories, I was able to recall they had been raised alongside me in the orphanage as well, only leaving when they entered the Shinobi Academy. We even had a pretty good brotherly relationship before they entered the Shinobi Academy. One of them was a third-year student and the other two were heading into their second year. They were in the last stretch of their summer break, so it made sense they were lazing around instead of actively training like me. I got tired, so I decided to call it a day, Hiroki-senpai. I replied smiling, briefly stretching my arm across my chest. Hiroki, the one who asked, rolled his eyes dismissively. "Pfft, really, a training fanatic like you?" I could only chuckle as I sat on the floor towards them, my legs apart and arms holding me up by my side. "Well, fanatics get tired too, you know. And besides, how else am I going to catch up to you guys?" One of them stood up and playfully put me into a headlock while grinding his knuckles on my temple. "You brat, not even in the academy yet and already wanting to leave us in the dust, huh? Take your punishment." "Noboru-senpai, wait, let's talk about this," I yelled out in mock agony while struggling to remove myself from his admittedly loose hold. He released me, but not before lightly chopping on my head. "That will teach you to make fun of your senpais, you brat." The other two laughed out loud while watching the spectacle. "Noboru has a point, Shinji. You're going to be in the academy for 4 years, and if you pass the graduation exam you will be entering the Shinobi forces, you know. You should be enjoying times like these while you still have the chance." "But I enjoy training, Takumi-senpai. It's fun for me to get better at throwing shuriken and watching myself grow stronger," I pouted, while rubbing away the pain from my abused temple. "This kid is really too excited for his own good." Noboru waved his fist at me. "Once you are in the academy like us, you will start to appreciate what free time you do have." I grinned at that. "That won't happen, Noboru-senpai, I love training after all." Noboru's eyebrow twitched and he took a step towards me threateningly. As I was starting to back up and putting my hands up in mock surrender, Hiroki called out, "Hey, leave the kid alone, Noboru. Who knows, maybe he will make a name for himself and make us orphan kids proud, huh?" Noboru turned back. "This brat? I don't know about that, Takumi-senpai. Doesn't look like much to me." Frowning, I stepped forwards. "Hey, I can hold my own, just try me." The other boys raised their eyebrows quizzically, as Noboru adopted a smirk. "You think so, tough guy? All right then, put up your dukes, let me try you as you offered." Takumi frowned. "Don't get too rough, guys, school is starting in a few days." Noboru interlocked his fingers and stretched them while cracking his neck. "You worry too much, Takumi-senpai, it's just a light spa. I'll go easy on the kid." Quest alert. Spar with Noboru. Land a clean shot. Knock Noboru down once. Dash, bonus 1, knock Noboru down twice. Dash, bonus 2, defeat Noboru in the spa. Dash, bonus 3, knock out Noboru. Rewards. Plus 100 EXP. Rep increased with Takumi. Rep increased with Hiroki. Rep increased with Noboru. Bonus 1, plus 100 EXP. Bonus 2, plus 100 EXP. Bonus 3, new title. Failure. Rep decreased with Takumi. Rep decreased with Hiroki. Rep decreased with Noboru. Accept. Y/N. Hitting yes, we made our way to the middle of the small training ground. Promise you won't get mad when I knock your butt down to the ground, Noboru-senpai. I teased. Ha. The chances of that happening is less likely than the moon turning red. Noboru shot back with the confidence that was expected. He had the advantage in height, reach, weight, and a year of practical experience over me, but I had the help of the system and my stats were nothing to scoff at, especially since he was the same level as me. If you two are serious then I will referee. Takumi cut in, annoyed. Taijutsu only, the usual rules. I shot up my hand, what are the usual rules? Noboru turned to me in disbelief and ridicule, is this your first spa? Oh man, now I'm starting to feel bad having to kick your green ass. Takumi similarly looked at me with some worry, are you sure about this, Shinji? Do you even know how to fight? I looked back with determination, I got this, senpai. Trust me. He shrugged, it's your funeral. Right, so the usual rules are it's your win if you knock the opponent down 3 times, get them to yield, or knock them out, but remember, Takumi turned towards Noboru noticeably, this is a friendly match, so don't try your best to knock off each other's heads. Yeah, let's get started already. Got it, senpai. Noboru and I faced each other and we both settled into our stances, his I presume to be the Konoha Academy fighting style, while I held up both hands in a loose, southpaw boxing stance. Ready. Hajime. Noboru and I faced each other and we both settled into our stances, his I presume to be the Konoha Academy fighting style, while I held up both hands in a loose, southpaw boxing stance. Ready. Hajime. My opponent remained where he was as his hand stretched out beckoning me to advance. Come on little Shinji, don't be scared. I won't hurt you too badly. While I had been confident going in, the moment the fight started I felt my throat dry up immediately as I gulped down my apprehension. This is literally the first fight I had ever been in, past life or current. I could feel a bead of sweat trickling down my forehead as I took an experimental step forward. Annoyed that I wasn't moving more, Noboru sneered, if you aren't coming to me, then I guess I will come to you. With that he launched himself forward at me, a punch flying towards my face. 2 things happened at that moment. 1. All of my apprehension and hesitance vanished instantly as a result of my gamer's mind kicking in. I could suddenly comprehend that despite my opponent's larger physique and presumed experience, he was still just a kid who barely had any training himself. Furthermore, he was an orphan who was vastly inferior to children from Shinobi clans who had begun training and body conditioning from the moment they could run. And to exacerbate his own circumstances, Noboru was a childish boy who preferred to play with his friends than train more than he needed to. 2. I attempted to move back in an effort to give myself more time to dodge the incoming attack. However, as I took the first steps, I somehow tangled up my feet and had to quickly balance myself to stop myself from falling on my butt. But as a result of my mistake, Noboru was able to capitalize on my imbalance and landed a fist on my face, knocking me down on the ground. -32 HP. 1-0, Noboru. Yo Shinji, we can still call it quits right now, you don't have to continue if you don't want to. Takumi called out. Noboru moved back to give me space and jeered, oh come on, weren't you running your mouth off before? Takumi glared at him. TSK. All right, yeah, what he said. Don't force yourself to do something stupid, you brat. Narrowing my eyes, I picked myself back up and dusted off my shorts. No, it's okay, it was just nerves. Let me go again. Even though the gamer's mind had calmed down my anxieties, my own inexperience and clumsiness hindered me from moving like I wanted to. I was thinking too much, and once I started overthinking, I made a stupid mistake and tripped myself. This goes to show that even the gamer's mind could only do so much to ready my mental state. If the flesh wasn't capable, no matter how composed the mind was, it wasn't enough. If you're sure. Takumi once again resumed the match. Noboru repeated his previous tactic, instantly running towards me again with his fist cocked back. I could see his smirk. Not this time. This time, I planted my feet down, determined not to commit the same mistake again. Instead, I executed a flawless slip to the left, dodging the punch, and was able to pivot away from the opponent with my back, opening up the space to OOF. I grunted out as he landed a kick on my exposed sides. Minus 58 HP. Shit. This wasn't playing out like I had visualized in my head. Stupid kid Noboru, maybe. This wasn't his first fight while it definitely was mine. I jumped away and was grateful Noboru did not chase after me. The pain was only momentary, but I wanted to give myself some time to recover. Dude, I'm starting to feel bad. Just yield before you get hurt even more. I affixed myself in my stance again and clenched my fists. Are you going to keep talking or are we going to fight? Noboru rolled his eyes. You sure can talk for someone who is getting his ass kicked. This time, however, I did not wait for him to come to me. I moved towards him first, hoping to catch him off guard. He was not as careless as that, however, but he did stay in place, inviting my attacks. I threw a few jabs which he easily blocked and then slipped out of the way of a counter cross from him. I pivoted myself as I had trained before and circled around Noboru, hoping to catch him at an angle, all the while keeping an eye on his legs to avoid getting kicked again. As expected, my opponent turned towards me and launched a kick at my sides again. However, this time I was ready for it. I tensed up my body and blocked the kick with my forearm, following which I threw a straight punch that caught him right in his smug face. It was obvious he was not expecting me to retaliate at all, as he froze for a short moment after recoiling from my punch, allowing me to exploit the opening by following the first punch with two more jabs to his face and a solid body shot that I was sure rattled his bones. Noboru withdrew rapidly. What the hell have you been eating? Goddamn, why are your hits so heavy? He spat out while nursing his lower torso. I grinned, still feeling the reverberations from the last punch. It was the first punch he had ever thrown that actually hit another person, and the feeling was exhilarating. Just regular push-ups and pull-ups, Noboru-senpai. Yeah, right. Okay, fine. Brat knows how to punch, but let's see how you deal with a little more speed. Noboru ran at me again, now faster than he ever was before. If I had not suspected he had been holding back before, I would have thought he just leveled up and pumped all his stats into DEX. Instead of running straight at me, he turned diagonally and actually jumped right at me. I only took a moment watching him in midair before slightly dipping down, raising my front knee and pivoted my back leg while extending the front leg in a high kick towards Noboru, who as expected landed right on my foot before he fell and crumpled onto the ground. 1-1, Shinji. Takumi cried out, eyes still widened in surprise. Whoa, Shinji. Nice kick. And what was with that jump, Noboru, you dumbass? Hiroki, who had been watching from the sidelines, cheered for me while simultaneously jeering at the fallen Noburo. Noburo twitched on the floor and held up a hand. "Tea time out, just give me a moment." I eyed the crumpled up form with some concern, worried that I had been too heavy-handed to a guy who had previously been holding back to not hurt me. "You okay, Noburo-senpai?" He shakily stood back up while nodding, holding his abused sternum. "Why yeah, you got me unexpectedly, but that was just an accident." Taking deep breaths to soothe his pain, he yelled out, "Let's go again, I'm ready." Giving a mental command, I targeted him with, "Observe." Takes Moto Noboru LV8. HP, 1420/1680. He was moderately injured, but what surprised me was the extent of the damage I did to him as compared to what he dealt me. It was not as if my STR stat could be that much higher than his. Pondering on the issue for a moment, I theorized that perhaps the numerical value of the damage shown did not accurately reflect the stats of the attacker. That reasoning would make more sense, as unlike a game, not every punch and kick would deal the same damage to an enemy, especially when landing on different body parts. A quick jab to a shoulder wouldn't be as harmful as a carefully timed counter hook to the jaw. Since his first punch on me served more as a way to knock me off balance rather than to injure, and the second kick was more of a quick jolt rather than a cocked and fired, full power attack, it did not do as much damage as the full power ones I did on him. Added to the fact that he had been holding back for the first portion of the duel, the theory was definitely plausible. Takumi nodded, still slightly taken aback by the ferocity of the last kick but willing to let the fight play out. This time around Noboru did not approach me, intending to recover from the unexpected blow to his chest. Although I wanted to give the poor guy a break, I had a quest to complete and couldn't give him the time to improve his condition. I took a few steps towards him, the previous successes emboldening and filling me with a certain degree of confidence. Noburo tightened his stance, ready for me to make the first move. Once I was in range, I snapped out a kick that was blocked. Quickly retrieving my leg, I threw out a few quick jabs that were also ineffective. I noticed that, while he was managing to block my attacks, his response was slower, likely being in pain from the kick I had given him. Capitalizing on his dulled reflexes, I swiftly threw out a combo before feinting on a punch while ducking down and sweeping him off his feet with an extended leg. I checked his status with, "Observe," again as Takumi cried out, 2-1, Shinji. Takes Moto Noboru LV8. HP, 1335/1680. As I had suspected, his HP barely went down as most of my attacks were defended against, and even the sweeping leg kick only served to sweep him off his feet. Noburo quickly jumped back up again, this time glaring slightly. "Fuck. Okay, no more Mr. Nice Guy. I'm going all out now. Takumi. Let's go, come on." I moved back a few steps and readied myself once more. I could tell from his expression he was no longer taking it easy on me, which meant I had to prepare for his impending all-out assault. Match point. Hajime. Noburo charged straight at me, and since we were not as far apart this time, he looked to be quickly closing the distance. Not content with being on the defensive, I launched myself forwards as well, meeting him in the middle. I could see it. He was angry. And that anger was clouding his judgment. He threw wild haymakers with the intention of taking my head off, and that wildness was easily exploited. As I ducked underneath one such swing, I swung back up past his guard and held my forearm against his right bicep, preventing his next punch that would have cleaned my clock by impeding the motion of his swinging arm. Immediately after, I rocked his momentum with a body blow using my free hand. To which he responded by grasping the back of my head with his left arm and tried to land a Muay Thai style knee on my face that I barely avoided by throwing myself out of harm's way through the open right side. Once I rolled away and got back up, he immediately followed up with a punishing side kick that I was barely able to block. -108 HP. However, I was able to catch the offending appendage and moved in while lifting up his outstretched leg. The resulting loss of balance from the sudden shift in his center of gravity allowed me to subsequently trip his other, supporting leg and get him for the third time onto the ground. And the match was over. 3-1. Shinji. As Nobuo looked up at me, his face fluctuating between being both amazed, astonished and aggrieved, I received the question completion notification. Quest alert. Spar with Noboru. Land a clean shot, square root. Knock Noboru down once, square root. Dash, bonus 1, knock Noboru down twice, square root. Dash, bonus 2, defeat Noboru in the spar, square root. Dash, bonus 3, knock out Noboru, X. Rewards. Plus 100 EXP. Rep increased with Takumi. Rep increased with Hiroki. Rep increased with Noboru. Bonus 1, plus 100 EXP. Bonus 2, plus 100 EXP. Congratulations! You have won your first fight. You may select a reward from the list below. 1 skill, Konoha Academy Taijutsu. 2 starter set training weights. 3 skill, Power Strike. 4 skill, Tough Skin. I raised an eyebrow at the message. It has been a while since I last received one of those first achievement reward, the most recent being when I had purchased my groceries for the first time when I moved into the dormitory. It had congratulated me for spending money for the first time and I received the same amount of Ryo that I had spent directly into my inventory. If I had known beforehand I would have bought something more extravagant, but hindsight was 20/20 I suppose. Dismissing the notification window and putting off the selection of a reward, I reached out with a hand to help Noboru up. He paused and looked at the offered appendage for a moment before taking it and getting up. Holy crap Shinji, you sure pack a punch, I can tell you that. Where did you learn all that? Noboru asked as he dusted himself off. I was glad that the altercation did not damage our friendship. Heck, it might have won me some respect from the three of them if the system messages were at all accurate. Just picked it up here and there, you all right? I didn't hurt you too bad, did I? Noboru winced. The hits didn't hurt, but that right there cut deep into what's left of my pride. He said, gesturing to his heart. The other two gathered around us. Noboru, what the hell happened? You got your ass kicked by someone not even in the academy yet? Hiroki questioned, holding back his laughter. Noboru glared at him, shove off. Don't say nothing before getting hit by that little monster. Kid's got moves. Takumi nodded appreciatively with newfound respect for his young friend. He might be able to show up those clan punks after all. Thanks guys, but really most of it was luck. Noboru-senpai was holding back and I just managed to catch him by surprise a few times. Damn straight. You bet your ass it was luck. Just give me 10 minutes and let's go for round 2, brat. Noboru exclaimed to our combined laughter. Hiroki snickered, placing a hand on my shoulder. Luck my ass. Take a hike. Let me see whether Shinji here is super strong, or you are just ass at Taijutsu. I turned to him, surprised. Ha. You mean? Hiraki grinned. Yep. The cavalry has arrived. You're up against me next. Quest alert. Today was the day. My first day at Konohigakyo's Shinobi Academy, where I will finally be able to start learning how to be a Shinobi proper. After double-checking my clothes and the items in my inventory, I went out the front door and took my first steps toward a new adventure. Quest alert. First day. Get to the Shinobi Academy on time. Don't be late for your first day. Rewards. Plus 30 EXP. Failure. Rep decreased with Shinobi Academy teachers. I'm used at the quest alert, but if the system was giving me EXP for something I intended to do in the first place, I wouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. While I was curious about the hidden objective, wondering what it could even be for such an innocuous quest, I threw it to the back of my mind as I made my way to the Shinobi Academy, which was located beneath the Hokage Monument. For the past 2 days I had been training with Takumi, Noburo and Hiraki after I managed to defeat Noburo for the first time. Hiraki had insisted on sparring with me after that, and I won again with less difficulty than my first duel with Noburo. It was apparent that Noburo was way ahead of Hiraki in terms of taijutsu, when I was able to win without being knocked down once. My accomplishment was rewarded with a similar plus 300 EXP and increased rep with the trio. I had been tempted to accidentally knock Hiraki out to receive the third bonus reward, which was a new title, but I was not inclined to go so far in a friendly match. I had learned after the fight, amidst jeers and mockery from Noburo, that Hiraki was ranked dead last in their year for taijutsu. His Shuriken Jutsu, however, was in contrast the best for their year. After taking Hiraki down, Noburo had insisted on round 2 with me. And this time, I faced a far more focused opponent who was no longer interested in keeping me uninjured, nor was he underestimating me anymore. He came out swinging but sneakily mixed it an accurately placed low kick that sent me reeling in pain, even if it was just for a moment. We had been pretty evenly matched for the most part, although he did catch me off guard in the last second, and before I even knew what happened I was flat on my back and he won with 3-2. Thankfully, however, quests were only generated the first time I fought each individual, meaning I did not lose out on any quest rewards for the loss. However, I did end up learning a lot from my mistakes, which was arguably more valuable than the satisfaction from winning. Lastly, I had to face the final boss, that was Takumi. The quest alert that popped up paralleled the previous ones, however the rewards promised were doubled. Takumi was a far more skilled opponent than both Noburo and Hiraki, with more patience, cunning and not to mention a 2-year age gap that ensured a significant height and reach advantage. Needless to say I lost, but I did manage to complete the mission with a tricky tackle that got him on the ground once. I did not, however, complete any of the other bonus objectives. The accumulated EXP rewards from the quests, as well as several other miscellaneous ones that I managed to generate, put me just over 100 EXP shy from leveling up. After the sparring session, it was apparent that the 3 of them had taken a keen interest in my future career, commenting that I had the makings of a taijutsu specialist, and even wondering aloud how cool it would be if a clanless orphan managed to snag Rookie of the Year. While I had no intentions to specialize in taijutsu, I was appreciative of their praise, nonetheless. The ensuing discussion resulted in their decision to put me through an intensive training regimen before my enrollment into the Shinobi Academy in order to, in their words, shock the spoon-fed clan punks, their previously lackadaisical attitude towards training replaced with resolution. In the course of the next 2 days, they were able to correct my Shuriken Jutsu form, as well as sharing some tips and tricks for throwing techniques they have picked up in the academy, which significantly enhanced my accuracy even without the added bonus from my Shuriken Jutsu skill, although the skill did manage to level up once more under their tutelage. The trio further helped out with my body conditioning training, helping me gain 1 point in STR, 2 in VIT and an additional 1 point in DEX respectively. I was also introduced to the Konoha Academy Taijutsu fighting style that Academy students all learned ahead of time, which helped me create the Konoha Academy Taijutsu skill. Konoha Academy Taijutsu, passive, LVL1. When using this Taijutsu style, plus 2% to physical damage, plus 2% to movement speed, minus 2% physical damage taken. Unlike the beginner Taijutsu mastery skill, which was passively applied at all time, the new skill's effects would only be activated when using the Konoha Academy Taijutsu fighting style. I had pondered briefly over what would happen if I mixed up this fighting style with other styles, whether the effects would be applied or would a whole new skill be created. Speaking of the newly generated skill, it had previously been offered as a reward for winning my first fight after I sparred against Noboru. Along with it, a starter set of training weights and 2 skills were listed as reward options. I had immediately dismissed the fighting style and training weights, as the first could easily be obtained in the academy or even from other people like I did, and the latter could also easily be purchased from a shop. There was a possibility that these training weights were somehow special and provided additional beneficial effects granted by the gamer system, but I would rather take my chances with the 2 skills that were offered. One was Power Strike, and the other, Iron Skin. The system provided no further explanation other than their names, but it was pretty obvious what would be their effects judging solely on their names. I had mulled over the decision for a few moments before deciding on Power Strike, as I had considered the possibility of the Iron Skin skill granting me skin made of literal iron. As cool as that sounded and looked in my head, it would also be equally as difficult to explain how and why I had skin made of iron. Upon selecting the reward, I was able to view its effects. Power Strike, active, LVL1. CP cost, 100. Increases the damage dealt by your next physical attack by 20%. As I made my way through the civilian commercial district, all the while spamming, observe, the second story of a clothing store caught my attention as I heard some yelling between a man and a woman. Chalking it up to a fight between a couple, I paid no mind to it. However, I snapped back in attention as I heard a loud thud against the second-story window of the clothing store and noticed a potted plant wobbling precariously on the edge of the windowsill. I tilted my attention downwards and saw that an elderly woman had stopped right underneath the very same window, looking up to check out the noisy argument. But as she was underneath the window sill, she could not see the wobbling flower pot directly above her. I could not even manage the barest fraction of a second to process the situation before my body shot forward on its own to pull the elderly woman away right as the flower pot landed with a sickening crack on the pavement, right where she had previously been standing. Holy crap, Bart-chan, are you okay? Did I hurt you? I asked while giving her a once-over. Oh dear Cammy, I was right underneath the, oh thank you, young man. Thank you. You might have very likely saved my life. She started thanking me profusely and even began pulling out her wallet, seemingly wanting to reward me for my deed. Obviously I rejected, not wanting to receive money from some sweet old lady for something I had done without even thinking about it. Instead, I turned to the horrified-looking couple who had peeked their heads out of the window when they heard the loud crash and started yelling at them for their carelessness that someone else almost paid the price for. I did not wait for them to come down and apologize to the old woman, as I did not want to be late for the academy. After making sure the profusely thankful old lady was fine and unscathed, I continued on my way to the Shinobi Academy. Nearing the front entrance, I witnessed several other academy students slowly and half-heartedly making their way into the building, disappointed at the end of their summer break and the start of a new year at school. Right as I crossed the front entrance, I received several quest notifications. First was the preparations quest that had finally been completed after an entire month. Quest: Preparations, completed. Train yourself before entering the Shinobi Academy. Increase your level up to 8, square root. Increase your Shuriken Jutsu up to LVL 3, square root. Increase your basic body conditioning up to LVL 5, square root. Increase your beginner Taijutsu mastery to LVL 3, square root. Learn the leaf concentration exercise, square root. Increase your leaf concentration exercise to LVL 3, square root. Hidden, meet a member of the Rookie 9, square root. Hidden, find someone to teach you, square root. Rewards. New title, Zealous Student. +2 to all stats. +1 LVL to all skills. Hidden, +200 EXP. Hidden, +5 points. You have leveled up. Booyah, jackpot. Let me drown in the sweet, sweet sound of level up notifications. I naturally opened up my status to check out the new title. Zealous Student, +20% EXP gain to all skills when in the Shinobi Academy. My day just keeps getting better and better. If my first day at the academy was any indication how the next 4 years was going to be like, I was going to have a blast here. Humming to myself, I opened up the second quest notification that I had received. Upon reading through it, however, I froze. All joviality vanished from my face. Quest, first day, completed. Get to the Shinobi Academy on time. Don't be late for your first day, square root. Hidden, save the old woman's life, square root. Rewards. +30 EXP. Hidden, new title, Lifesaver. Congratulations. You have selflessly saved a life for the first time. You have shown remarkable improvement in understanding true altruism. You have earned +10 points. As I read through the hidden objective that was now revealed, I felt a shudder down my spine. The hidden objective was to save the old woman's life. But how could the quest have known? Wait. I felt my head spinning for a moment before Gamer's mind kicked in and erased the distress that had been spiraling out of control. Ever since my reincarnation, the quests the system had created had always been reasonable. There was a logic and pattern behind them. The quest objectives had always been there for a reason and more often than not served to guide the progress of my quests. Whereas the hidden objectives usually rewarded me for thinking outside the box, or for looking underneath the underneath. But this time it really screwed me up. The system being able to see the future was not a surprise. It was, after all, designed by some omnipotent entity that had reincarnated me into a fictional universe. The more disturbing thought was the possibility of the system somehow orchestrating the entire incident for the sole purpose of being part of a fucking 30 EXP quest, and for unknown reasons to teach me some sort of lesson about altruism or some other bullshit. The thought weighed heavily on my mind and I had unknowingly shambled my way outside the classroom where I will be learning for the next year. I sighed and shook my head clear from my contemplation. It did not matter right now one way or the other since I could not do anything about it either way. The only thing I had to keep in mind now that I was aware of the potentially insidious nature of hidden objectives, was to simply be more cautious and attentive when it comes to quests with hidden objectives. Now, however, I am simply an academy student and I had to act the part. Calming myself down and affixing a mask of indifference contrary to my inner turmoil, I opened the sliding door and entered the classroom to meet the infamous Rookie 9 for the first time. It seemed that I was still early as barely half the students have arrived. As I made my way to one of the seats near the middle section, I scanned through the seated children, spotting a few who I was intimately familiar with. The first that caught my eye was the dark-haired Uchiha Sasuke, the future prominent rival of the protagonist. He had yet to experience the Uchiha clan massacre, so unlike his cold and brooding countenance in the anime, here he was merely quiet and looked rather disinterested with the rest of his class. Turning on, observe, I took a quick look at his status to compare to my own. Uchiha Sasuke LV10. HP 1670/1670. CP 2330/2330. Sasuke is a student of Konohagakyo's Shinobi Academy, belonging to the prominent Uchiha clan that boasts the Kopii bloodline, the Sharingan. He is a talented child who believes the academy will only hold him back as he wants to graduate early like his brother and follow in his footsteps. Sasuke thinks that you are unimportant, and he is not interested in you. Sasuke is stronger than you. HM. There was a new piece of information in the Observe window. Oh right, the preparation quest leveled up all my skills. I guess Observe was not excluded from it. I wondered how the system appraised his strength. Was it through levels, stats, or a holistic overview of the individual's skills and experience? Taking a seat, I opened my status window discreetly to check out my new stats from my recent level up and skill effects. I would also be lying if I said I wasn't interested in checking the new title I had just received from the insidious bonus objective. Name, Shinji Ikari. Age, 7. Level, 9. Next level, 280/2250. HP, 1550/1550. CP, 3410/3410. STR, 25. VIT, 22. DEX, 30. INT, 53. CHA, 7. Points 38. Rio 16,830. Perks. Lesser chakra sensitivity. You have acquired a burgeoning talent in your ability to sense and manipulate chakra. Plus 20% to chakra-related skill effects. Plus 10% increase to CP recovery rate. Plus 10% increase to max CP. Minus 10% CP cost to all chakra-related skills. Titles. Zealous Student. Plus 20% EXP gain to all skills when in the Shinobi Academy. Lifesaver, plus 1 point every time you save a life. Skills. Observe, active, LVL, 4. The ability to read information about the targeted object or person through observation. Improved proficiency in the ability reveals more information. Basic body conditioning, passive, LVL, 6. Increases your body's strength, speed and endurance through training. Plus 6% to physical damage. Plus 6% to movement speed. Minus 6% to physical damage taken. Plus 6% to physical stat growth rate. Shuriken Jutsu, passive, LVL, 5. Increases accuracy of thrown shuriken and kunai by 50%. Increases damage dealt by thrown shuriken and kunai by 50%. Knife fighting, passive, LVL, 3. Increases damage dealt with small, bladed weapons by 30%. Beginner Taijutsu Mastery, passive, LVL, 4. Plus 4% to physical damage. Plus 4% to movement speed. Meditation, active, LVL, 5. Plus 35% to CP regeneration. Plus 35% to HP regeneration. Leaf concentration exercise, passive /active, LVL 5. CP cost, 3 per second. Plus 5% to chakra control. Stealth, passive, LVL 4. When sneaking, plus 20% harder to be detected. Konoha Academy Taijutsu, passive, LVL 2. When using this Taijutsu style. Plus 4% to physical damage. Plus 4% to movement speed. Minus 4% physical damage taken. Power Strike, active, LVL 2. CP cost, 95. Increases the damage dealt by your next physical attack by 40%. I resisted the urge to whistle at my status screen appreciatively, especially looking at the level 6 basic body conditioning. I had noticed that as my skills leveled up, it became progressively harder and harder to increase their levels. As such, quest rewards that could directly level up my skills were greater time savers than one would think. What truly awed me was the lifesaver perk. Every time I saved a life I would gain a free stat point. Wasn't that simply ridiculous? If I were to save 1,000 people, would I receive 1,000 points? Or if I somehow repeated my past life's deed and somehow saved the entire planet, would I receive billions, or considering the population of the elemental nations, millions of points? And besides, wasn't the system being counterintuitive if it rewarded me every time I saved someone, because then my motivations would not be pure since I would be doing it for the stat point instead of sincere altruism? Maybe the system would only reward me with the stat point if I directly saved someone from harm's way and only for selfless reasons. Then a thought struck me. Who saved the most lives in the world? No, not Shinobi, they killed more than they saved. Nor was it the Uchiha police force. Doctors were the ones who saved the most lives, medic nins in particular. If I were to work as a medic in the Konoha hospital, or better yet in some makeshift first aid tent on a battlefield, wouldn't I be able to rapidly accumulate stat points just by doing my job? But what if the system didn't count healing someone as saving a life? Or would saving people as an occupation not be regarded as altruistic life-saving? Ugh, there were too many questions and not enough answers. Damn you system, explain yourself. Slowly, more and more students shuffled in, some nervous while others were already chatting noisily with their friends. Speaking of friends, the girl from my orphanage, Kaori, was here too, and she had moved to sit right next to me upon seeing me enter the classroom and started chatting her mouth off about how glad she was that we were going to be together in the same class and other such inane topics. I was honestly not very interested in entertaining her little crush, but neither did I want to cruelly shut her down. So I compromised and settled on an aloof disposition when dealing with her and absent-minded, lukewarm responses while tuning her out. Mind you, I did not mistake her possible friendliness and comfort around me for puppy love, as it plainly told me so in her status. I was more invested in checking out the other more notable characters that were in or entering the classroom. From my generous usage of observe I learned that most of the students from a civilian background had very low levels between 4 and 5 and one even as low as 3, while clanless students who had Shinobi parentage were mid-leveled at around 6, 7 and 8. The clan heirs and heiresses, however, were impressively around 8 and 9 while Sajuk was the highest one at level 10. Which also meant that I was comfortably at the clan heir standard. Although it would also be foolish to disregard their accumulated skills and innate advantages afforded to clan members. As I surveyed the young versions of the characters I had only seen through the screen, I felt a sudden and odd sense of surrealness. Only now did my cognition of my new reality set in. I really was in the Naruverse, and all the characters that had always been mere drawings on a piece of fiction were now living, breathing people. I wanted to somberly reflect on my new circumstances, what with all my loved ones left behind in my previous life, but all I could feel was a palpable excitement and elation coursing through my veins. Kaori, sensing my jubilation, blushed, mistaking it for a gesture of perceived affection. A minute before class began, a familiar-looking Chunin with a distinctive scar across the bridge of his nose who I recognized to be Yumino Iruka walked in, holding a laminated file. "All right, settle down class, take your seats and we will start with a roll call." Seeing the instructor walking up the front of the room, the other students quietened down and sat down at their respective places. "When I call your name, respond to let me know you're here." "Abaram Shino," Iruka called out. "Here," the stoic boy tersely responded. As Iruka continued calling out names, the door abruptly slammed open. "I'm here." A distinctly short, blonde child rushed in panting slightly. His identity obviously being the one and only spiky-haired blonde boy in Konoha, Uzumaki Naruto. Iruka narrowed his eyes. "You're late." He, sorry, I overslept," the loud-mouthed blonde proudly proclaimed while also sheepishly rubbing the back of his head. The Chunin furrowed his brows. "Don't be late again, Uzumaki." Naruto widened his eyes and grinned. "Oh, you know my name already." I must be making a name for myself already." He swiped at his nose triumphantly. In response, Iruka spat out brusquely, "Just sit down." Now. To Naruto's credit, he simply brushed off the barely disguised hostility, as though he was unsurprised by the attitude, and took a seat near the back of the classroom. I raised an eyebrow at the apparent venom in Iruka's tone before remembering that the compassionate teacher had initially resented Naruto on account of the Kyuubi inside the child that had taken his parents from him. Iruka only lightened up after a year or two when he rescued Naruto from some Takegakyo kunoichi after the child was tricked into retrieving some spoils from a battle with enemy Shinobi outside the village. Iruka cleared his throat and continued calling attendance. When he was done he started speaking. "Good, everyone's here. Good morning class, and welcome to the Shinobi Academy. Before we begin, let me introduce myself. My name is Yumino Iruka, I'm a Chunin of Konohigakyo and you can address me as Iruka-sensei. I will be your academy instructor for the duration of your education here until you graduate and become official genin. For the next 4 years, we will be imparting to you the fundamentals of the Shinobi arts, not just how to fight, but a comprehensive curriculum that will serve as the foundation for your future careers. In the coming weeks, we will slowly ease you into your syllabus that is split into 2 equally important portions, that is the theoretical aspect of becoming a Shinobi, along with the practical side of applying theory to practice. Now, I like to start off every school year, especially for you first-year students, with an order that should also be taken as a warning. What you will learn here are the Shinobi arts, knowledge that can and will be dangerous if taken lightly and misused. So I want all of you to engrave what I say deep into your hearts. You are not to use what we will teach you frivolously and flagrantly outside the premises of the academy for any reason other than for training purposes or dangerous situations. He paused, letting the words sink in. Any student, no matter who you are, if caught mishandling what they have been taught to cause harm or danger to civilians or other students without good reason, will be punished appropriately. And I can assure you, that if I find out any innocent person was harmed through reckless endangerment by any of your actions, I will be personally pushing for expulsion and subsequent restriction from learning any form of Shinobi arts ever. Do I make myself clear? The students looked uncertainly at each other. Do I make myself clear? Iruka repeated, raising his voice. Hi sensei. The class chorused. Good. Any questions before we begin our lessons proper? The class shifted silently in their seats, but no one spoke up. Very well then, we shall start off our first lesson with a brief introduction to some basic concepts and some history. Iruka picked up a chalk and began writing on the blackboard behind him. That's it guys. Hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe the channel, and also make sure you tell me your recommendation in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching.